Wait a minute. This is Virtue's brand of wrestling on the Big Vito brand, but where is Virtue? It's me, El Virtuoso, and I am here as a guest host for this big celebration, the 1 year anniversary of the Big Vito brand podcasting channel. Virtue's doing the behind the scenes things, and he's busy doing this and that. I'm sure he'll be tweeting this and promoting it. But as you can see, the Big Vito brand blinking sign is going on, and my beautiful flag from Mexico. But the topic I want to discuss for this 1 year celebration of the Big Vito brand, it's simple. It is wrestling gimmicks. If you get my drift. To me, what's a wrestling gimmick today? I believe a wrestling gimmick today is being a wrestler. That's what all wrestlers want to be. They don't care about their character. They just want to be a wrestler to get ratings from Dave Meltzer. Gimmicks are a lost art. Kurt Hennig was Mr. Perfect. Ric Flair was the nature boy, right? Living, high styling, and profiling. Big Vito was Skull Von Crush, and he was an Italian Pavarotti hard shots to the body. Hulk Hogan was Hollywood Hogan, right? A superhero gone bad. The Macho Man Randy Savage was the Macho King Randy Savage. You see where I'm going with this. Lanny Poffo, brother, was the Genius. I mean, I could list gimmicks all day long. And while I'm doing it, I might as well keep listing them. Mark Calloway was The Undertaker. Glenn Jacobs was Kane, or is Kane, if you will. What do we have today? Sami Zayn, what's his gimmick? He's a wrestler. Kevin Owens, what's his gimmick? He's a wrestler. AJ Styles, he's a wrestler. Seth Rollins, he's a wrestler. Dolph Ziggler, he's a wrestler. Johnny Gargano, he's a wrestler. Do we even have gimmicks today? Maybe Velveteen Dream in NXT, but maybe he's one of like a Gold Dust type, Orlando Jordan type character. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was the Heartbreak Kid. Why are we so geared to just being a wrestler? Because what is the Smarks want? 20-minute, 30-minute matches. They could have a 75-minute match, if you will, just so they can give it 7.25 stars. But at the end of the day, does that sell? Does wrestling matches and wrestlers sell? Only to that bubble. But a casual fan, I remember when I was in Mexico City in high school, it was the Attitude Era. Did people care about wrestling and the matches? No, they cared about characters. The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the boss ass kicker, right? So all the blue collar workers who hated their job in real life could suspend their disbelief, live vicariously through Steve Austin on Monday Night Raw, watching him kick his boss's ass, Vince McMahon. So in their mind, they were kicking their boss's asses, and they could go to work the next day with a smile on their face. That's sports entertainment, people. All I ask is, can't we keep that alive just a little bit today? Just a little bit. I named all these wrestlers. Even Drew McIntyre, what's his gimmick? Okay, Braun Strowman's the monster. I understand that. I get that. What's Samoa Joe? He's a wrestler. What's Daniel Bryan? He's a wrestler. The Miz, okay, a Hollywood star. There's some gimmick there. I'll give you that. But why? Why does that have to be a lost art? Why does everything have to be portrayed as a sport? I always thought that it was an entertainment first. If you're drawing crowds, and you're on television, yes, sports do that. But at the same time, if you are having characters, not players or athletes, even though, yes, wrestlers can be classified as athletes, I'll give you that, it's an entertainment. Characters are part of a TV show. You go to a live wrestling show and kids are drawn to the larger-than-life characters. Casual fans who aren't necessarily wrestling fans are drawn to gimmicks. Now, I am not talking about Duke the Dumpster Droese or Isaac Yankem DDS. Diesel, Razor Ramon, okay, borderline as long as they're not the fakes. I'm not talking about Mantar. I'm not talking about the Goon. Okay, gimmicks can be hokey. But I want a Mr. Perfect. I want a guy that thinks he's perfect. The Ultimate Warrior, that was a superhero gimmick. What part of Ultimate Warrior looked like a normal guy? None of it. No, he was a gimmick. The Macho Man Randy Savage, colorful, larger-than-life gimmick. He became the Macho King for a little while, and when him and Elizabeth split storyline-wise, he got Sensational Sherry, who was a queen. But I sit here today filling in for Virtue, and I know on the Big Vito brand, bigvito.com, Virtue has come on here, and he tries to give you a different light of wrestling, of what your pro wrestling sheets or the Insider, the Informer, the Meltzer, whatever those idiots and schmucks, like Ryan Satin, loser, Brian Alvarez, loser, Dave Meltzer, okay, yeah, I could maybe hang with him at a couple of clubs in Tijuana, get him drunk, he'd liven up and open up, and we'd probably have a good old time. I'll give Meltzer the benefit of the doubt. He's been around the game for a while. But the Wade Kellers, we all know our good buddy Vince Russo, and I hope he does a shout-out to the Big Vito brand for this special one-year anniversary. But we all know him and Jeff Lane every week castrate the marks. We know Vince Russo and Vito every week get color and go behind the scenes and really dig into the wrestling business because they were there behind the curtain, unlike these other people that just want to see 30-minute wrestling matches and talk about wrestling like they know it all. I believe in the brand, right? It all started with Russo's brand, and it branched off into the Big Vito brand, and this is a one-year celebration of the Big Vito brand. And everybody on it has great opinions. Some people have great knowledge of facts of actually being in the business. So I am here as a guest host on Virtue's brand of wrestling to liven it up, to throw the party. I wish I had a Corona, but we've already drank them all. I wish I had party streamers and all of that. But, when you're working with pesos, I'm going to put the light back on. Oh, nah, fell over. Never mind. But, when you're working on a limited budget, you have to have a wrinkled Mexican flag. It is what it is, right? But at least my shirt kind of matches my helmet here. And not just that, if you watch Virtue's intro, I like to shout out to El Virtuoso. Noel did a great job on putting that together, and at the very end of it, it's my face. So, in a way, I've always kind of been here. But, could you say El Virtuoso's a gimmick? Perhaps. I speak pretty good English. I can get my accent to sound like a regular American. But I just miss gimmicks in wrestling and the characters in wrestling. And heck, if you look at it today, AJ Styles is the WWE champion. His gimmick is being a wrestler. Brock Lesnar is the Universal champion. He doesn't have a gimmick. He's a UFC fighter. Maybe that's his gimmick. Dolph Ziggler's the Intercontinental champion. He has no gimmick. Let's see. The U.S. champ is Shinsuke Nakamura. He's the artist. Of what? What? Of what? He's the artist of acting quirky and speaking horrible English. He's not Michael Jackson. He's not Prince. Let's go over to New Japan. What gimmick is Kenny Omega? He's a wrestler. He's the cleaner. Well, in mob movies, cleaners are people that go and kill the witnesses and clean up the mess of the dead bodies. But is Kenny Omega portrayed that way? I don't think so. What's Okada's gimmick? A Japanese wrestler. It's a lost art. Some people live the gimmick. Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, styling and profiling. Andre the Giant was an actual giant, and that was his gimmick. Bobby the Brain Heenan was a manager, right? The Weasel, that was a nickname, not a gimmick. Ravishing Rick Rude was like a Chippendale. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, he had a 2x4. Honky Tonk Man, Disco Inferno. Those are wrestling gimmicks, and they're entertaining. They're entertaining just to see their characters' entrance to the ring, dance, talk, promo. Give me a 5-minute match. That's all I need, right? That's all I need. Jake the Snake Roberts. Jake the Snake Roberts, one of the best promo guys ever. He had a gimmick. It was the Snake Man. Today, do we get anything cool like that? Do we get the Bulldog, bringing the Bulldog to the ring? No. No, we got Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens coming down in his T-shirt and shorts. We have the developmental territory in WWE NXT. So we have Tommaso Ciampa. He's great as being a bad guy, but does he really have a gimmick? And I understand sometimes you don't need it, but John Cena was a superhero. Never give up. Roman Reigns is portrayed as WWE's Aquaman, superhero. So again, if you're on television and you're trying to build an audience, I understand catering to the niche fan base. And if they want indie wrestling with wrestlers with real names or names that look like regular names and not just Hulk or Lodi or Loki or I don't even know what I'm saying here, or Green Goblin. I'm going superheroes now. But superheroes are gimmicks, written comics. And those movies sell. Even the bad ones, the DC universe like Justice League, still brings in $700 million, right? Maybe they lost money on that, but it's not like they sell DVDs because they're superheroes and villains, just like wrestling was intended to. Now, if you go back before it became sports entertainment, I understand it might have been hard to classify Bruno Sammartino that way, Chief Jay Strongbow, Pedro Morales. They might have been considered athletes, but that was when people bought wrestling like it was real. A lot of people didn't know it was a work. But along the way, people found out, and it became, that appeal and nostalgia of the old school, Shea Stadium type matches, that faded into sports entertainment. That's what it became. But you know what? It drew bigger audiences. Vince McMahon was able to put it on closed circuit and eventually pay-per-view and eventually do the Silverdome in Detroit, Pontiac Silverdome, 93,000 people. You think wrestlers sold that, or do you think gimmicks and characters that were larger than life sold that, right? Big Vito, he's a larger than life wrestling character, right? Full-blooded Italian, a Mama Luke. Pavarotti of hard shots to the body. Noelle, she did her work, and I believe it was Combat Zone Wrestling. She had a personality. I often heard her compared to, in a way, a young Sherry Martel, with that being vibrant, right? And not just going through the curtain and going through the motions as an athlete and a professional wrestler and an athlete and a professional wrestler. No, they cared about being a character, riling up the fans, making the fans suspend their disbelief. And I miss that. I know Virtue misses that. I know he does all kinds of topics on all of his websites. here, and including here on the Big Vito brand. And I'm glad he gave me this platform, okay, to come on here for the 1-year celebration of the Big Vito brand podcasting channel. And it's only going to grow. You know, there's not much wrestling discussion on here. That's why I'm here, right? But the fact is, there's spilling the teen mom tea or whatever they call that now, entertaining show. There's, you know, the girls on there talking all the time. I've seen hockey shows. They're if you're good, if you know who Virtue is, because I know he's going to share this on all social media. If you know who I am, and you have any creativity and you want to make videos about whatever your interests are, do a test video, record something and send it to at the Big Vito brand, and Noel, they will look at it and maybe they will choose you to have a show on the Big Vito brand. Be a character. Be a gimmick. Do something fun and exciting. Talk about your topics, your opinions, baseball, basketball, Dancing with the Stars, America's Got Talent. Who cares? As long as nobody else is doing it. And let's create a discussion. Everybody knows how big that Walking Dead has been, and they did something The Talking Dead. People like to talk about stuff that they're into and discuss. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, and we banter. That's the beauty of it. But please, professional wrestling, please don't let these fans overtake what you have become and evolved into. Don't go back to just being wrestling matches with 20 to 30 false finishes just so you can get a star rating by my boy Davey Boy Meltzer. He still covered wrestling when it was the Attitude Era and when it became sports entertainment in the 80s. He didn't stop covering it. So why not go back to the eras that had the most fans, that had fans that didn't even like the wrestling matches, they liked the soap opera, right? We need more groups like the Oddities. I miss Luna Vachon, Crazy Chick. You know what I mean? Bam Bam Bigelow. He could do a cartwheel, and he had a flaming skull tattooed on his head, or a flame, whatever. You think this is a tattoo on my face? No. I just miss what we used to have. It used to be more entertaining. Now, when we sit there and watch the product today, we struggle for topics. We want to bash it. Remember back when we didn't bash it? Everything was great. Everything was good. And if we didn't like something, it was just minuscule. Today, wrestling fans just want to bash the product. Isn't that funny? That you want to bash the product that's full and consists of wrestlers, professional wrestlers that don't really have gimmicks. And the ones that do have gimmicks don't get pushed into storylines very well. Bray Wyatt, right? He was like a cult leader. And he doesn't get pushed very well. And it's asinine and it irritates me. And there's no reason I should come on here on the 1-year celebration of the Big Vito brand and be discouraged about anything. But there's stuff in wrestling that I miss so much. I mean, you could take a guy that couldn't wrestle that well, Giant Gonzalez, El Gigante, and you could put a big bodysuit with hair on it and paint it on airbrush muscles, and all of a sudden make this guy look like something that The Undertaker could never defeat. And you had that imagery of WrestleMania 9 of Undertaker looking up at him, but everybody today looks back and says that was one of the worst matches of all time. But it's not about the match all the time. Can we just not expect 30-minute matches and let a Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Randy Savage match naturally happen? And afterwards, we're like, wow, that was a damn good wrestling match. Owen Hart versus Bret at WrestleMania 10. Wow, that was a damn good wrestling match. No, everybody's conditioned to every match has to be one of these long bouts. Best of 3 falls, best of 7 falls, best of 21 falls. I would rather see a 7, 8, 9 minute match, casket match with Yokozuna versus The Undertaker with a huge casket that will Yokozuna go in there? Will Undertaker go in there? With the little managers, Mr. Fuji and Paul Bearer meddling on the outside. Do you remember the Mankind Undertaker Boiler Room Brawl at SummerSlam 96? Those were gimmicks. Mankind, right? All those years and all those crazy things Mick Foley did as Cactus Jack, which was a gimmick, but it was more of his personality times 10, times 100. But then WWE gave him Mankind and then toyed with the three faces of Foley, Dude Love, Mick, Cactus Jack, and Mankind. And all of a sudden, he becomes the WWE champion. He becomes an all-time great entertainer, jumping off of Hell in a Cells, getting hit in the head 25 times by The Rock. Awesome stuff. It was a gimmick. And because he did so well at the Mankind gimmick, he was later able to be Mick Foley. And you cared about him because we knew Mick Foley was Dude Love, was Cactus Jack, and was Mankind. I miss that. All gimmicks don't always work. We talked about the horrible gimmicks of 95. Mantar. God. Who is that one guy? Salvatore Sincere? Ouch. Barry Horowitz? Ouch. Brooklyn Brawler. I do like that guy, though. Love you, Brooklyn Brawler. But yeah, not all gimmicks work, right? I mean, we had, Duke the Dumpster Drosy. That really didn't work. There were some that were borderline, like, the Headbangers were just like punk rocker type guys. They became the tag team champions, so they worked. But, Beaver Cleavage, that never worked. That never amounted to anything. What else didn't work? It's hard. The fake Razor and Diesel. Okay, well, how do you replace Scott Hall and Kevin Nash's personality? You can't. The Ringmaster didn't work. But you know what did? Stone Cold Steve Austin. Speaking of the Ringmaster, it reminds me of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. What a great gimmick. I was just watching on YouTube the other day when he was having the $1 Million belt made. Those vignettes at the jewelry store, awesome stuff. I mean, that was awesome. $1 Million Man was $1 million. No pun intended. Mr. Perfect. Wow, what an era. Earthquake. You take a big, heavy guy, right? But you put a suit on him with a fault line, and it says Quake, and he jumps up and down. Gimmick. You take a Samoan, a big, large Samoan guy, and Yokozuna, and you say he's Japanese. Put him with Mr. Fuji. He's a sumo wrestler. Gimmick. Awesome stuff. And again, it doesn't always work. Lex Luger, the narcissist, right? You still have to be a great entertainer to get the gimmick over. The Lex Express, USA. Sometimes gimmicks don't get over, though, because of creative and WWE management. But as Big Vito will attest to, Cody Rhodes, sometimes you can't get your gimmick over, and you have to go to the indies to be, what's the saying that I've heard all over the place? The big fish in the small pond. So, yes, sometimes gimmicks don't get over, but I like Cody. Cody's definitely making a name for himself in the independent circuit. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to cut this off here. I just wanted to come on and rant about wrestling gimmicks, and I'm sure that I might have missed some, but I don't have a Twitter, but you can go to Virtue's Twitter. I think it's @NoDQ_Virtue. And bring up some of the greatest gimmicks of all time. And if you don't agree, if you think that the new gimmick is being a wrestler, well, then everybody's going to have the same gimmick, and that's no fun. But this is Big Vito brand, the Big Vito brand's 1-year celebration here in the podcasting game. So, like I said, I wish I had balloons. I wish I had streamers, fireworks. But I know that maybe Noel will superimpose some of that over this video. I don't know. If not, that's okay. But thank you for watching. And I do know probably in the next week or so, Virtue will be back on Virtue's brand of wrestling, and he will get back to his super serious wrestling discussion. But nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. And like I said, go on to his Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue and talk about wrestling gimmicks. What gimmicks, type of gimmicks would work today? The heel foreign gimmick, like Jinder Mahal, we know that basically fizzled out with today's fans. But how can you trick the fans today? Is it a combination of what the gimmick is, how great the performer is, or does everybody just have to be a professional wrestler? Boo. But nonetheless, this is El Virtuoso, also known as Julio Javier Gonzalez. Orale, arriba la raza. I don't know if that's how you can say it. Because like I said, I was born in the USA, but my ancestors are all Mexican. So adios, amigos. See you next time. I hope you enjoyed this special edition for the 1-year celebration of the Big Vito brand of Virtue's brand of wrestling with me, El Virtuoso. See you later. Hey, it's Virtue here from BigVito.com and the Big Vito brand. And I wanted to let everybody know, in case you already didn't, go to ProWrestlingTees.com and search Big Vito, because you will see a spread of t-shirts that are must-owned. And you know what? Here is one as an example. So I hope Noel puts this on the end of some of my videos, because it really makes me look like a big deal that I'm doing commercials for Big Vito's t-shirts on ProWrestlingTees.com. But seriously, folks, you want to represent the Pavarotti of hard shots to the body? Seriously, no joke. You want to get color with the Big Vito and the Big Vito brand? Head on over to PWT. Everybody knows it as ProWrestlingTees.com, and search Big Vito, and you will be able to choose your size. And you know what? I believe once in a while they run promotions and sales, so you always want to look out for that. But anyway, I am Virtue from BigVito.com and the Big Vito brand. Thank you for listening to me.